What on earth have you bought, Ralph? Yes, welcome to Ralph's house.
Welcome to Ralph's house!
It's a Gunter Wulff Bingolett. It's a German arcade machine made in 1959, and I spotted it on Facebook Marketplace, and I was fully aware of how much work was involved. But having done a few other arcade machines, I don't see any real difficulty in sorting this one out. It's all largely there. Here's a picture of one that's complete, and I'll link underneath to a video so you can actually see a running one. The only thing that's really missing from it is the front glass, and you can't buy them, and as far as I know, no one does reproductions. But as you know, I've done this before in the past. I've made new glasses for machines, and I may have to call on my son to help me a little bit in Photoshop possibly, but we'll see how we get on. But what I'm going to do in the meantime is I'm going to put clear perspex at the front, so we can actually get the machine running. There are no balls for it. I haven't worked out if they're wooden or rubber. I suspect they're wooden. But right, let's dig into it. People who work on these arcade machines all approach it in a different way. I've seen some people spend hours on the cosmetics and then discover that there's a fundamental flaw in the machine. They've just wasted the time. So for me, I start with the coin mechanism. It's not crucial, but I think if you've got major parts missing or it's broken, you've really got to do your homework and find out if you can get parts, which is unlikely on these older machines, or if you can get a replacement, again, remote. There are lots of people who collect these, and there's always a chance that someone's broken one up for parts, and there are parts in it that you might want, but certainly you've got to have a look at the way it works. Having looked at other ones, I've ascertained that there's a few stand-ups on this coin mech. There are two here though, and you see they've actually got a hole drilled through them. There should be a piece of wire that comes through there and then hooks down into that hole down there. It's taken me a while to figure out why, but I think that is the reject coin mechanism. Until I start putting some coins through. The reason I say that is because there are kind of two routes out of this. One is via that, and the other one is through there. And I think what happens is if it's the incorrect coin, it will divert it down here. Won't really know until I've got it screwed into the machine and do some testing with it. But while I got it on the bench, I thought I'd oil it. The other thing I'm a little unsure of, let's put a coin in it, and then you can see what I'm up against. Right, putting a 20. It should be a threepenny bit actually, I think. But we'll put a 20. I'll just hold it there so you can see it, and it drops into there. But as this cam turns, that releases it, right? So that would go that way. So that is either the correct route for the coins, or it's the reject one. I suspect that's probably, it drops it into the coin hopper. That's what that does. But this thing I'm curious about because it pivots around this point, and I was thinking, well, why does it have this weight on this end? And I would have thought the reason it's got a weight on that end is so that it naturally falls up, at least at the opposite end, and then as the coin drops through, it pushes it down and then it drops back up again. But it's not, it's sitting low all the time. So whether it needs some extra weight added to that, again, I don't know. This is the trouble when you're working with vintage machines. a lot of it is, and also there's a guy who repairs vintage TVs in the States. His username on YouTube is Shango66. I'm not always keen on his politics, but I love his attitude to the way he works. And he doesn't do any more than he's got to. He doesn't waste time on it. But it's his methodology in solving problems. And even though I don't work on TVs, I find him really useful to watch. I do a bit of electronics myself, but, you know, and I certainly wouldn't want to get into vintage cathode ray TV sets, but he does, and he's good at it, you know. And the nice thing about it, he's encouraging youngsters to follow suit. And after you watched his videos a bit, I mean, I've probably watched, I don't know, feels like 100, and I feel like I'm starting to get to know TVs now through watching him a lot. And guys like that are really useful. But certainly, when it comes to something like this, you need a bit of an engineering head on you. And think, well, why does that do that? Then that does that. So that's what I'm doing at the moment, starting on the coin mechanism. I don't think I'll get particularly far with it. What I'm trying to do is spend the time and get familiar with it. And that's the thing that Shango66 teaches. Before he even works on a TV set, he spends a good 10-20 minutes just carefully looking round everything for things that are damaged or blown or don't work the way they're supposed to, before he even considers plugging it in. And I think that's a good approach. So I thought, well, I'll start with the coin mechanism. I've already got some bulbs for the machine. I'll show you those a little later. And some rubber tubing, which you'll find out why I need that too. Anyway, this is the coin mechanism, and I'm fairly sure I'm right about this wire across here. They might have just taken it out of, maybe it was troublesome, whatever. It's coat hanger thickness of wire, and I've got some wire that sort of thickness, not coat hanger, but it is actually that sort of thickness, and it's much stiffer than coat hanger wire. So I'll make up a piece to actually go in there at some point so we can restore that. Other than that, I don't think there's a lot missing. There seem to be one or two nuts and bolts missing, which, because it's in two halves, you see, that screw the two pieces together. But I will discover, I suppose, in the fullness of time, how much that influences the way it works. Right, moving on. Right, so let's have a cursory look at the Bingolett and the way it works. Those that are familiar with Allwins, forget all that. Well, other than the fact that the ball goes around and lands in something, that's the way the Allwins work. But with these, because it's electro-mechanical, these are actually supposed to have rubber sleeving on them, but of course, you know, it's deteriorated. That's why I've ordered some modern sleeving, because, you know, if I use rubber, and I gather you can get it in the fishing world, the right sort of diameter, but I'm going to go for polyurethane on these. But if you look down these slots, because these are what denote the numbers that show at the top. Obviously there's no artwork in front of this, but that's, these bulbs light up for certain numbers, and these are all numbered 4, 3, 2, 1, whatever. But if you look down there, there's a contact, so as the ball drops through, that triggers one of the bulbs at the top. That's the basic principle. Obviously it looks a lot better with the artwork. So let's have a look at the back. Electromechanical, that's how you describe this. It has a motor in it. Most of the board runs on DC, and I'm thinking, I haven't looked at the wiring diagram, it's in German, but it's going to be something like 24, 28 volts DC, because you've got all these solenoids, they're always powered by DC. But as is common with a lot of these early amusement machines, the bulbs, and this is the wiring for the bulbs on the front, you're looking at the back, they're all AC, which is going to be fun, because I want to convert it over to DC LED bulbs. So I'm going to have to look where that circuit starts. I imagine that as these are tied together, see this wire here, I can use that as the negative rail, and any of these coloured wires that come in will be coming off one of these contacts, whichever one it happens to be. I wonder why it's got nothing connected to that one. Should I worry? Probably not. But I'm going to put in an LED driver unit, a modern one at the bottom, because that'll accept 240 volt in and give me 12 volt out, about 1 amp up to 5 amp depending on what size. A load of those got scrapped recently and I grabbed them before they went in the bin, which was handy. So this transformer, 240 volt comes in, you'll have 28 volt DC, and if we look under here, this is what they used to use to rectify DC, a selenium rectifier. Looks like something off a Dalek. I'm going to change that for a more modern one because these do go bad, and when they do go bad they smell of sulphur. Yet to know if the transformer's working or not. Not particularly worried if it's not. I can certainly get a transformer to match that. If it's just 28 volt, I can certainly get one of those. Split one much harder, which is why I say fit an LED driver unit in the bottom. There's enough room, or up here somewhere. So there it is, a largely electro-mechanical machine. Coin mechanism here, coin hopper there. I'll need to look at that because that's got to accept 20p, so I may have to change the size of that, make a new one. This here is the payout mechanism. There's a slider. Well, it's a bit stuck at the moment, it probably wants lubricating. That would, there's a solenoid there and it would go chunk 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 and drop the coins into the payout hopper down there. Yeah, it looks to me like everything's here. It just needs everything setting up and testing. I'm sorry the light's not so good. I'm down the far end of the kitchen, but I just wanted to give you a glimpse of what it's all about. You won't find a lot about Gunter Wulff Bingoletts or Rialtos online, although lots of people own them. There's very little information about them, so I'm hoping in a way that this video will be useful to other people because I'm new to it and I'm going to discover things as I go along. And we don't know if anything's failed, anything's burnt out. Certainly if I can get it up and running, I'm going to take readings of all these solenoids so I know their values if they don't turn up in the actual wiring diagram. But look at that bunch of cables there. You know, that's one big bunch of cables, isn't it? Yeah, so that's the back, and you've seen the front. They look stunning when they're assembled and put together, and there's a lot of fancy trim on the front, which I'll also be painting at some point. Don't know how many episodes this one's going to go over. I would think probably about 4. This is the first one. So, you know, it's your first look at the machine as well as it is mine. And for those that have got one of these, a Rialto or a Bingolett, if I can get everything up and running, you'll have a rough idea of how things work and if anything is missing in yours, which could help generations of people that have these. So, you know, I'm delighted to be able to do it. Right, moving on. Now, it has to be said, well, I've said it before actually, I'm no expert when it comes to Gunter Wulff arcade machines. I have no experience of them at all, other than some experience of other amusement machines. But amongst the box of bits, and everything for inside appears to be there, a rare thing. But in amongst all the bits was this thing. And I was scratching my head trying to work out what on earth it is. And then it occurred to me, the penny dropped. You see these bulbs, or, you know, at the top that denote which numbers you've scored. This, the bulbs go inside each one. This, see these lugs on the back? They push into it. There are holes on the back of the board. And these push into it and they block light from all the different areas. And I was thinking, well, that's a shame, there's only one. And then I thought, no problem. I've got a 3D printer, so I can make a stack of these. So I will use this as a sample, and I will use black PVA and no, not PVA, PLA, black PLA filament, and just instruct it to print loads of them, and then I'll have enough. All I've got to do is just check that it's going to work on all the boxes. It may be that some of them should be straight across. I'm not sure why this one's cut out of the top. It'll perhaps become more obvious when I try this in the various different places, but I would imagine they all fit pretty much the same way. So that's what that is. I don't know what we'd have done before the advent of the 3D printer. I suppose we'd have had to make it out of cardboard. Anyway, that's that solved. Well, I've returned to the coin mechanism. Historically, when I hit a problem, what seems to work for me is actually just walk away from it and then chew it over and then come back again. That was very true of my VW camper, and I think I set a precedent in this. I'd got a T25 with a 1900 2-litre engine in it, and the exhausts on those things are notoriously difficult to get off, and I spent a whole day on it. In the end, I had to use an angle grinder to get the thing off, and I walked away from it, slept on it, and thought, well, why am I grinding this exhaust off to put another one on that I'm also going to have to grind off at another date? There must be a better solution to this. And I thought, a bike exhaust. That's what it needs, and it needs something big enough. And I think it was off a Kawasaki 900, something like that. I can't remember the model now. But I managed to get all the bolt holes to line up with just a little bit of modification. And the great thing about it was that after that, if I wanted to buy another exhaust, all I had to do is buy one. I've got loads in my shed now. They're about £25 each off these bikes. So if my exhaust ever goes, I've got loads of spares. And really easy to fit, just 3 simple bolts. And I use stainless bolts as well, so that, you know, they didn't go rusty. And that's the same with this. Sometimes you need to sort of walk away and come back. As it goes, there are now hundreds of people driving around with T25s with bike cans on. I started that one. I was also the guy that started rollering VW campers. That's me. So if you ever bought my DVD, yeah, it's me. Akakov Kid and the Volkswagen circuit, I'm known better as that. Anyway, I've come back to this because, you know, I was thinking about this thing that's balanced and all the rest of it, and the piece of wire that's missing from here, and it dawned on me, because this is a German machine, originally it took pfennigs. They're quite small coins, aren't they, pfennigs? And to sell it to the British, I think it was adapted by a company in Britain. They didn't do too much to the machine. They altered the back glass to remove any reference to pfennigs and set the machine up to accept threepenny bits, for those old enough to remember those things. And so consequently, this is the coin slot that's on the side, and it actually matches up with that. So when you feed your coin in, it goes in here through the top, and that down there, and you press the button for it up here, is the reject. So I am right, the reject coins come out here. So let's move that thing out of the way for a moment. What I'm thinking is, I can put a 20p coin in it. I think I will get this to run on 20p coins. It makes the most sense because it fits the slot, fits the thing on the side. So therefore, the only other coins that you can put in there would be a 5p or a 1p. Whatever it is, it's going to weigh less than a 20p coin. So I think this wire and this contraption is all about the weight of the coin. So if it doesn't meet the weight of a 20p coin, it will dump it into the reject. So there you are, a bit of thinking. So really all I've got to do is, when I've got this in an upright position, try it with pennies, try it with 5p's. You know, if they put a 10p in, it would jam in the mechanism, but it won't even go through the slot at the top, so we can rule those out. So and 20p seems a reasonable amount, doesn't it, really? 10p a little bit too less. But therefore, so you've got various payouts depending on what the numbers you get. So I will just do multiples of 20p. I forget what the payouts are on it, but that's what I've got to do. I've also got to look at the hopper, the coin tube, and I may have to alter that to suit 20p coins better. But other than that, that seems to be how the coin mechanism works. I don't think I've got to do too much to it. I'm fairly sure I need to, probably actually I could drill one side of this, tap it for a thread, and literally put a screw in it, a small screw. That would be enough just to tip the weight so that on average, well, most of the time it sits at the top. I think that's finely balanced. That's what I think. So that anything up to the weight of a 20p coin, that's how I've got to get it, really. If it's a 20p coin, that'll drop. If it's less than a 20p coin, that'll stay there, and the coin will get diverted through here once they press the button on the outside. So I think that's the coin mechanism solved. I'm going to wind up this video about the Bingolett because it is really an introduction. As I say, I would imagine this will go over about 4 parts. So stay tuned if you want to hear more or watch more. But I just wanted to talk about these, and also thank Tim, who I bought this machine from. And Tim knew I'd got my work cut out for me, and I knew I'd got my work cut out for me, particularly the front glass, because unlike pinball back glasses, it had got a mirror effect on it as well. I think I can do that. It's going to be a bit time consuming, but as with all of these machines, the cosmetics have really got to be last. You've got to get in that machine, get it running. You don't need the artwork on it to test it, and at the moment it is untested, although, as I say, everything appears to be there. I'm going to make sure it's fused for starters. I have got, which I may use, an isolating 240 volt transformer. So it plugs into a 240 volt socket. It's got a 240 volt outlet, but it's isolated from the mains, and that's, you know, I tend to use that with old radios and things like that, you know, just for safety sake. I don't have a variac where you can bring up the voltage, but I'm sure it'll be fine. If something's going to go, it's going to go. And there don't appear to be any capacitors in it, you know, old wax ones that were, you know, like to catch fire or go bang and make you jump out your skin. It'll be a case of whether the transformer works. I might get a bit of a burning smell, we never know. But I'm going to fire it up with what's in it, and then gradually convert it over, I say, to DC and that sort of stuff. So thank you to Tim, because I know he is going to watch this. In fact, he said, if you do a good job, I might buy it back off you. Yeah, he was an interesting fella. But also, I want to show you some of this trim on the outside, because although it's, well, it depends how you look at it. Now, people who own these machines say, oh, look at the patina on that. Yeah, I get that. But the trim is rather nice. You know, it's got this, and that isn't, you know, coated aluminium. It's quite heavy. I would say that's probably brass, highly polished with a coat of lacquer on it. And it's got these lovely corner pieces. But I noticed that Hammerite do a smooth gold that's almost a dead match for that. I'm going to get a can, try it on another piece of metal, see how close the match is. I'll certainly do these. But as far as the case is concerned, I will tidy it up. But if it's got nicks and bumps, that's fine. That's part of its history, isn't it? You know, I'm not trying to make it look like a brand new machine. That's just plain silly. So anyway, I'm going to wind this video up. If you want to follow and see, you know, how I get on with the Bingolett, or if you've got a Rialto, only slight differences between these machines. Between 59, I think, is it 63? But if you've got one of these machines and you'd like to contribute, please do, you know, drop some messages below, because it will help other people. As I say, there's very little on the net about Gunter Wulff machines. They're German. I think most of them ceased in the 60s. I'm not sure if they went on to other things. As I say, I'm very new to this. But do please contribute if you've got any thoughts, ideas, something I may be doing wrong, something I may be doing right. And together we'll get this machine going. How's that? So thanks for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe.